to Cam Look, your daily dose of art from the Cincinnati Art Museum. Each weekday at 10 a.m., a staff member or a volunteer will share an object from the permanent collection and post some questions for discussion. Check back each weekday at 10 a.m. for a new look and a new conversation. I'm Carrie Atkins Maras. I'm the Associate Director for Community Engagement at the Cincinnati Art Museum, and today we're going to be looking at the role of failure in artists and athletes. With just a few days until the start of the Tokyo Olympic Games, we are continuing to work our way through the hypothesis I made a few weeks ago and talking about the role of training, and this week we'll talk about the role of failure in artists and athletes. Failure and resiliency are kind of buzzwords in education and business culture right now, and I think it's partly because the rest of the world is catching on to something long known to artists and athletes. Failure and how we respond to it is a key component in who we are, both individually and collectively in a team or business setting. Athletes are used to failure. You can't take a shot without missing a bunch. Less obviously, but just as real, artists don't typically happen upon a masterpiece on the first try. They receive what is often brutal feedback and criticism before hitting on a success. We talked about the many hours successful artists and athletes commit to their work, but even with all this preparation, it can't totally protect us when we put ourselves out there and give our best performances, risking that vulnerability only to fail. It's hard to watch failures on the Olympic stage, but there are plenty of them. Louganis famously hit his head in the preliminary diving rounds, but went on to qualify and then medal in the Olympic Games. In 1863, the Paris Academy Salon show rejected so many pieces of art, the rejects had to have their own show, and it filled an entire separate gallery. This gallery was arguably the jumpstart to the Impressionist movement and included some pretty well-known and ultimately successful artists, Manet, Monet, Whistler, to name a few. But how do we rebound from those kinds of setbacks? We started with, and are back to, the most famous failure of an artist, Vincent van Gogh. This work, created just a few months before his death, is often cited as one of the top masterpieces at the museum. But when Van Gogh painted it, he was broke, guilt-ridden, struggling with depression, had alienated most of his friends, hadn't had a successful relationship with a partner, and had several failed careers under his belt. Yet somehow, against all odds, he found the will to keep creating. He kept working through all these issues and the lack of financial and critical success. He was driven by an internal desire to do his best work. And although the external issues certainly affected him, they didn't stop him. After his death, his work became very highly collected, and as we all know, very valuable, and he's considered an artistic genius. I wish I had more answers to give on how artists and athletes find that internal drive and mental toughness to continue even after failure. All I can say is that I think it's remarkable. And until next week, when we discuss the role of creativity and innovation in artists and athletes, go Team USA!